Hi, one of the big contenders at this year's Oscars is Judas and the Black Messiah, which I watched this morning. It's the story of the relationship between Fred Hampton, who is the chapter chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, and William O'Neill, who was a new recruit who, it turns out, was in fact a informant for the FBI, which was determined to destroy the Black Panther Party by any means necessary, including assassination. Um, it's an interesting story, which is probably an understatement. Um, the focus of the film is very much the relationship between the two men, but particularly the politics. It's the film works, I think, rather well as a recruitment tool for a new generation of socialists in the Western world, which is rather satisfying to see. Um, and there is a deep exploration of the Black Panthers' philosophy and politics, particularly their uh, focus on revolutionary behavior and how that impacted their relationship with the authorities. The FBI was determined to destroy them at all costs, and J. Edgar Hoover, who appears in a couple of scenes, played by Martin Sheen, is driven apparently by blind racism, which felt somewhat reductive because um, the Black Panther philosophy, as discussed by Hampton, is much more focused on destroying the status quo, removing the haves from the equation, rather, and is shown in the film by his creating a rainbow coalition with people with whom a Black Power movement would not necessarily have connections, such as a, um, a group of white Southerners who were similarly angry and disillusioned about the controlling interest from above, and also Puerto Rican gang members. But the focus is on the two central characters, the two men, and they're given very fine performances from Daniel Kaluuya and LaKeith Stanfield. Oddly, at the Oscars, both have been listed as Best Supporting Actor, which seems to be a failure of the Academy to actually specify which category they should be going for, because really they're both leads. Um, but looking as though they've, because they're black, they've been relegated to a second tier isn't great. It would be a major problem in other years, but at least this year there is greater representation at the awards, so it's less obvious, less intentional, certainly. But it's still a flaw that needs to be addressed. But they're very compelling leading performances. Stanfield is excellent at showing the conflict between the growing idealism in O'Neill's character with his belief that he will be exposed in his compromised situation, while Hampton is intelligent, charismatic, erudite, extremely focused on the task at hand, but also very open and very human. His romance with one of his followers is the wrong word, but one of the other members of the party is given great emphasis, and that relationship humanizes him rather more, turning him from what could be a dry political figurehead into a completely rounded and believable human being. I think Kaluuya's performance is one of the best I've seen this year, and he richly deserves the Oscar if he receives it. It's a very strong script. I've been concerned with a trend in the last couple of years with films that are based on real events or real people, like Bohemian Rhapsody or Trial of the Chicago 7, which have been taking a very relaxed attitude towards fidelity to the facts. Bohemian Rhapsody was a complete nightmare of fabrication. The tale of the trial of the Chicago 7 also was uncomfortably unrealistic in the number of the changes it made and changes in emphasis. Judas and the Black Messiah is much more faithful to true facts. There are some changes from real events, but they are less in terms of fabrication than in terms of simply streamlining events or situations into something that works in a film rather than changing or adding elements just to fit some preconceived screenplay narrative structure. So it was pleasing to see this level of fidelity in a film like this, where it would be easy to warp things to make things more uh, befitting the tone and the content that they're reaching for. Um, Ultimately, the film is something of a tragedy because it shows how the establishment eventually won, how Hampton was eventually assassinated with assistance from O'Neill, who later died by his own hand. But the Black Panther Party survives to this day, run by his widow and son. With increased awareness and protests on such issues around the world today, with um, looking at another element, the Time's Up movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, and ongoing protests in the UK against police brutality and excessive force. It seems as though Fred Hampton's legacy still survives and is continuing. And I think now is an excellent time for this film to have been released, and it's a very fine film as well.